Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay.
All right. So, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Rob James. I'm a professional photographer.
And how long have you been doing photography?
If you count moving pictures, television, film, video, if you want to separate that from television, which it is, oh God.
Longer than you want to remember?
I screwed that up. I'm so sorry.
What do you mean you screwed it up?
I was going into like a 2-minute diatribe about video being separate from television. That's stupid.
No.
Don't. No internet cutaways here.
No,
Okay.
So what do you mean?
All right, let's start over.
No, what do you mean by separate? Video being, I mean, you're pointing a camera, right? You're working behind a camera.
Yeah, I actually trained professionally in film and television. I have a master's degree in television and film.
Well,
Television meaning broadcast television.
right.
But I've done video, my own video production company for, I don't know, about, 18, 20 years,
Mhm.
so.
So do you see a lot of difference between photography and...
It's gone to the dogs. I can.
Do you see a lot of difference between video and photography?
What I've said to my clients even is that the beauty of digital filmmaking, if you will, is that you are trying to take a succession of frames and turn them into a wonderful story, a beautiful end production. Whereas in photography, you're trying to take that one frame and make that the whole story, make that a beautiful story. So you're trying to achieve the same end in a way, but in a totally different approach. You're rather than trying to capture a succession of frames and make those mean something at the end of that succession, you're trying to take that one frame and make that mean everything that you might have put into a succession of frames.
So what would you say, I mean, you've been a professional photographer for a while now.
Yeah.
What do you feel separates a professional photographer from an amateur photographer? Because there are a lot of, you go to a wedding, let's say, or a birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people clicking pictures. What is it you
Oh
feel?
yeah.
And what is it you feel makes your work different than everybody else's?
I'm better than they are.
So.
No. Ask the question again. I still don't know if I'm looking at you or the camera, to be
Well,
honest.
you know what? It's fine. You're doing fine.
Okay.
So, no, but what is it you feel that separates an amateur photographer, like somebody taking pictures at a birthday party or a wedding, from the professional photographer who's been hired?
Like I said, filmmaking and photography is very similar in a lot of ways. And one of those ways is it's still about composition, composing your subjects in the frame. It's still about proper exposure. It's still about making the story effective and beautiful, and meaningful. And you can do that in a single frame if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you get a bunch of people standing there going, it's not the same thing. You're creating an art form. And there's a technical aspect to it also.
Well, and that was actually going to be my next
Okay.
question. How much do you feel equipment separates a professional from an amateur? Somebody who has, say, a low-end 35mm camera compared to a photographer with a high-end 35mm camera. Does the technology make that much of a difference?
There's a couple of caveats to this, because the technology has actually helped the amateur photographer make the images look better. The images look more professional because of the increase in technology at the amateur level or at the prosumer level. However, a good professional can take lesser equipment and make it look better than a good amateur's best equipment. And that's simply because of what I said. There's an art form involved. There's a storytelling technique that you can do as a professional with the camera, you're telling a story, whether it's in a single frame or a succession of frames. And as an amateur, the mindset's not there for that. So even if the technology helps them increase in the picture looking better, the image looking better, they're still not effectively telling that story. They still don't know the rule of thirds or composition or lighting or any of those other sorts of things. One of the things when I used to give seminars that I would always teach is that one of the dead giveaways of amateur versus professional is lighting. When you're shooting photography or you're shooting film and you don't have the right amount of light on the subject, whether it be way too much light or way too little light, then to me I can look at that right away and I know that somebody's not putting that into what they're doing. So lighting is also a part of being professional about shooting photography. Knowing how much light, knowing where the light's coming from, knowing based on the mood of what you're trying to create, what kind of lighting you want to put into the frame. So